resilient recovery, knowledge management, and overall institutional development. He has proven ability to lead and provide technical assistance and mentoring, resilient recovery, support, knowledge management, to national disaster management, institutional development offices, NDMO, secretarial agencies such as Ministries of Planning and Investment, Finance, Health, Agriculture, Environment, Transport, Urban Development, private sector, local NGOs, civic societies across Asia, Pacific, and African regions. It's can I have a round of applause? It's really wonderful, to see it. So as the Director of Preparedness and Resilience Recovery Teams of ADPC, Mr. Madhura Pema has designed and implemented multi-donor funded DRM programs in Asia. He also leads the innovations and private sector engagement portfolios of ADPC. Now, may I also introduce Dr. Valerie Bemo, Deputy Director, Emergency Response, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, for her gracious presence. Dr. Bemo has been an integral member within the Global Development Division at the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation for the past 10 years. Within the BMGF, Dr. Bemo pioneered and executed the emergency strategy to respond to all major world disasters, including the Haiti earthquake in 2010, the Ebola breakout in 2014, and the Nepal earthquake in 2015. She holds over 15 years of direct experience in the field worldwide and is passionate about building local capacity within communities and national institutions, fostering sustainable growth that results in lasting change. Before joining BMGF, Dr. Bemo held various roles at the International Rescue Committee, most recently serving as Senior Technical Advisor for Health in the Democratic Republic of Congo and West Africa. She has experience with a wide variety of NGOs internationally with extensive experience in emergency relief as well as clinical and public health. May I have a round of applause for her? Over to you, Dr. Sharma.
Thank you. So the format will run as follows. I'll make some opening remarks. I'll hand it over to my esteemed panelists to talk about that, and we'll have a dialogue after that on certain questions. So when you look at innovation, especially for disaster, now by nature of disasters when they happen, an immediate response is required. So there is no time to build new innovation. So unless we plan for innovation well in time and knowing what can be implemented and what cannot be implemented, responding to the innovation post the disaster is meaningless, because by the time the innovation comes into play, disaster would be over and that innovation will never find main ground. Okay. Second thing about innovation is that when a disaster occurs, whatever solutions are available or what large organizations promote gets implemented. Okay, because something has to be done at that time. There is no time to look at anything new. What else could be done? So our responses are also very narrow banded in things that we understand, and they may not be optimal at that time. At this time, I'll also like to bring that while all the foundations and NGOs and governmental agencies are focusing on equality across the globe, but one of the areas that I think many countries suffer from, it's not only poverty, it's not about education inequality, it's not about gender inequality, it's also about innovation inequality. So and nothing much is being done about that. So when we look at innovation, what comes to our mind is that this innovation must have come from US or from Europe or from the developed country, so it must be good. What if an innovation comes from Bangladesh or India or Philippines? Now that carries a stigma, and it is considered not working till proven otherwise. So there is this sense of innovation inequality that exists. And it is not possible that all innovation could be coming from few countries and rest of the world have to be only consumptions of innovation. So I think that's something that we need to look at seriously, even beyond disasters, to see how innovation inequality can be also be taken as one of the equality initiatives across governments and foundations and this thing. When you look at an innovation, there's obviously a sense of category. We all buy in categories. We buy an air purifier, we buy a car, we don't buy a specific product. So if problem statements are defined before, then micro categories can be created. Now, the larger organizations will not really be interested in these micro categories, too small for them. But innovators are, and social innovators especially are. So if they build these categories well in time, at least they can be fast deployed when innovation and this thing occurs. Obviously, we need to now also start really focusing on innovations that cause no harm, which are really good for the environment, where we can be closer to nature. For example, some of the water technologies we have been using across the thing over 20, 30 years have caused more harm, while they did solve the problem at that time and maybe nothing else was available. But as technology is moving forward, I think it's very, very critical for us to look at areas that cause no harm. So we are living in a world where COVID is resurfacing. We now have monkeypox. We have a war going on. So I think this is a decade where a lot of focus has to be done on disaster and risk management. I think we are more vulnerable at a much higher risk in the next 10 years than we were ever before in the last 3-4 decades. And I think if we can plan earlier and really focus on how we can build some of that today, then we'll be better poised. So with that, I'll like to talk to Dr. Valerie to give some opening remarks.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Alok, for this introductory. It made me reflect a lot of what you said about sustainability, about inequity. And I think the needs are urgent. I feel like I want to take a step back about innovation. When we talk about innovation, we tend to think about product stuff. But for me, innovation is beyond just things. Innovation can be in different forms. It can be a process. It can be a position. It can be taking something existing and making use in a different way. It can be, and I think I want us to look at innovation because usually when you talk about innovation, people tend to say, oh, IT, oh, new thing. For me, innovation is beyond that. That is the first way of seeing it. When we're talking about disaster risk, I agree with you that we are in the world where we're taking a curve now, where it's faster than ever before, it's exponentially going faster. And one thing that we know in nature is that you either change, survive, or you perish. And I think the world is in that sense where we don't have choice. We have to think differently because it's only the way, it's actually a survival way of us looking at it. If you look at how the humanitarian sector is evolving, the needs are greater than ever before, but the gap funding is also even heavier. The amount of disasters that are coming, especially with the climate, with the health, we are a global world. We are a globalization, we are interconnected so much that we don't have choice now. And I think coming to that perspective is to say, how do we really think about innovation? And in a way, yes, there's inequality if you look at innovation as stuff, IT. But if we look at when disaster happen, what is happening? I don't know about you, but I know it's happening in India. But in Africa, the biggest innovative people are the community. They don't have choice. Every day, they are having to survive and to innovate. And I think we have to, maybe it's because we didn't pay attention, we didn't value it, we didn't look at it. But I see that as, and I think that's why I'm happy we are here. When we look at social innovation, when we look at that, is that we have to recognize that the top-down doesn't work. The bottom-up is the solution, is the innovation. And how do we, and more, how do we start looking at indigenous solution, marginalized solution? Because actually, they know better the value of $1. Because $1 can be life and death. How do we look at it? How do we actually pay attention to what they know? How do we listen better? How do we pay more space to give them space to show us what they know, because they know better than us? But give them the platform, because that is where the iniquity comes from. Are we giving them the chance to speak? Are we giving them the space to do? Are we giving them the funds or the means to be able to explore what they know and what they are? And I think for me, this is the space we need to think about when we think about innovation, because the world needs more than ever. We need it because we don't have choice. It's a survival mechanism. We need it because we don't have the fund. How do we become more stewardship of the fund that we have? How do we become more efficient with what we have? Because this, if not, we perish, all of us. And we are in the world where we are so interconnected, and we saw it with COVID. There's no other choice. But it has to be bottom up and not top down. Thank you.
Sushra, please go ahead.
Thank you. So both of them made my life easier, so I can continue from where they stopped. Thank you, Dr. Valerie and Alok. I'd like to perhaps bring related but different ideas. When we talk about innovation, specifically on social innovations, at least from ADPC, we don't believe that innovations will only come from Silicon Valley. Obviously, from Silicon Valley, innovations come, but we also believe that most of the DRR social innovations would come from small communities in Bangladesh, rural communities in Bihar in India, rural communities in Sri Lanka, and so on and so forth. So question for us as practitioners, as regional organization, is that how could we make space and bring their voices, bring their innovations into regional and global scale? What are the tools and mechanisms that we can put in place so that these innovations does not just pop up and die out? So this is something that Gate Foundation and ADPC has been working with FICCI to make sure that we do a bit of mining of those innovative ideas, innovative practices and ideas in India, and then identify them, nurture them, recognize them, and allow them to flourish, and allow them to bring their voices into the various platforms so that their potential can be fully maximized. So this is something that I think we all need to keep in mind, that how could regional organizations as ADPC can play a vital role, bringing these, connecting last mile when it comes to innovations and helping them to flourish, and connecting them, connecting the innovators with the practitioners, for example, connecting innovators with the industry, for example, disaster management industry. And there is a huge gap when you look at the innovators and when you look at the policymakers. There is a huge gap. And we don't believe, I personally don't believe that me as a director of ADPC is an innovator. Obviously, my role would be to work with these social innovators and help them to flourish, help them to bring their ideas into the next level. The second part that I like to touch upon is that how could we use innovation as a tool for regional cooperation? And we talk, when it comes to regional cooperation, we talk about disaster risk reduction, we talk about climate change adaptation, we talked about sustainable development goals and so on. So it would be very good, some of my reflections are a little bit provocative, but it would be really good to see how many of these social innovators are able to come to global platform, perhaps. Could we have obviously I understand that there are various sessions around innovations, but can we allocate more space for the innovators? Can we give more space and voices for them to bring their innovations so that the disaster management sector can progress forward? And being in this sector for the last 2 decades, I was thinking, if some of these innovators and if some of these innovations realize into their full potentials, perhaps we may not be having this amount of impacts today. So I think it would be good for all of us as practitioners, those who have spent decades in the sector, to see whether we are stagnated in some stage, or is it lack of innovation, or is it lack of space? So these are the questions I think we should continue to discuss, not only today, but as we move forward in this dialogue and beyond, so that we should be able to, we as a community of practice, I believe the colleagues, those who are in this forum as like-minded group, those who support the ideas of innovation. So if we could start thinking and work as a like-minded group in promoting innovations, I believe that the future would be much brighter. So let's step back, see how we could perhaps play a different role than what we used to do, and perhaps play a role than what our regular job is, to promote these local innovations and bring it to the next level. With this, I would like to hand over to Alok, and I'm sure he might be having more interesting questions for us.
Yeah, thank you, Sisira. So I'll just like to recap, and I think thank you both of you for great points. The whole definition of innovation being all-encompassing across everything, not only science and technology. How we are so connected globally. I really like the example of you talked about the value of $1. It's so different in different communities. And it's a choice of survival for us. So do we have a choice of not doing this? Don't think we have, because we are all interconnected and we are global. So thank you for those observations. I think Sisira talked a lot about how, I think very motivating in terms of how we have to, there are innovations happening everywhere, how we get them a voice, how we bring the difference to policymakers, how a different role can be played maybe from different governmental organizations and non-governmental organizations to see how this can be promoted. So with that, I'll like to get a little more specific inputs from both of you. Dr. Valerie, if you could share with us some of the opportunities, or some, what keeps you awake at night? What do you think are challenges that we are going to see over the next decade or so, and what solutions would be required? And Sisira, if you could add that maybe from a more regional perspective, because we're in Asia, on the same area. Thank you.
Thank you. I think opportunity, I see there's a lot of them. When we look at the way the system is now, or when we look at all the data, I don't know how many of you have looked at the climate change, and we see it, we live it every day, it's frightening. It's almost like, oh my goodness. And when something is so big, so intense, it's almost like we freeze. We want to just stop, because it's like, oh, it's beyond myself. It's too big for me. But I see it as an opportunity to say, maybe we have to start looking at our own system. What did we put as a system globally? I want to say it, because I think, as Sisira said, and even as you said, Alok, is about who innovate, and what is innovation, and who do it, and how do we come with innovation. Maybe the opportunity here, especially lately, there's a lot of discussion about localization, and usually it's separate from innovation. Maybe the localization agenda should bring the innovation, should bring different voices, as Sisira mentioned, at the table, to start really from that area. That is the first opportunity. The second opportunity, how our system is shaped, making it difficult. That's why I say when we look at innovation, it can be a change of process. Who make decision and how we make decision can be a way to change also the paradigm and to look at it. There's a lot of challenges, because when we look at the opportunity, it's also come every step. It's almost like every door you want to go, there's a big block, and you have to turn. But also, I believe that in what we do on the day-to-day, I'm just looking at the health, COVID, because I was involved in the last 2 years in COVID, and I realized that, you see, it took us 9 months to create a vaccine. Why? Because the people who are concerned were dying. And we put all the effort to do that. Now, if we turn it to disaster risk reduction, we are all dying. then I think there's an opportunity there to us to start thinking. Nobody thought RMNA vaccine can be developed in 9 months, but we did. I see opportunity there. When we look at the way the world have changed, we all changed. A year ago, none of us were able to be here in the same space, but we continue working. We changed the mask. I'm sure if I asked 3 years ago everybody to wear a mask, nobody will be doing it in a meeting, but we're doing it. As a human race, we are changing and we have the capacity to change and this opportunity. Globally, there's more and more willingness to think about it. The localization agenda brings us an opportunity to actually, because there's funding. Now, how do we lose the funding? Because a lot of time when we talk about localization, people think about capacity building, people think about training, people think about just bringing. But I think for me, when I see localization, as Cecilia mentioned, it's like, how do we elevate the voice? And I think this is what this program is. How do we elevate the voice of the social innovators who do their work, of the community who are changing every day? How do we take this lesson, multiply it, and share across? And I think, how do we create a space for South-South learning, for South-North learning? And there's a lot of small examples, simple examples that we see on the day-to-day, because actually people change because they don't have choice. And I just wanted to just give in an image. Coming here, I was watching, sorry if I divert a little bit. Coming here, I was watching the plane, a documentary about nature. And one thing that came out, there was that big tree, and you know the small ant going and cut the tree for a mushroom. And then as they were going, they were almost destroying the tree and the leaves because they were taking all of the trees. And suddenly what the tree did, they have to change the composition of the leaf to create a little bit of toxin so that the tree, how do you call it, the ant taking the leaf and start killing the mushroom. But this was an adaptation. When we talk about disaster risk reduction, how do we adapt to the condition? And that nature teaches us. If we look back, if we look at our day-to-day work, if we look at our community, the solution is there. And that, for me, that is the opportunity we have ahead of us. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Sisra, maybe you can talk about both the opportunities and the challenges, because Dr. Valerie preempted my next question. So.
Sure. I would take this kind of challenge as well as it's put as an opportunity as well. So, disaster, climate, conflict, and development nexus. And we are so isolated when it comes to our development practices. We are either focused on development, more on climate change, more on disaster risk reduction. And, if you specifically look at Asia region, we have all of this, right? So, how could we, as innovators, how could we look at those problems in totality? Like bringing this development nexus. I mean, if you look at, I'm originally from Sri Lanka. Now, if you look at the present situation in Sri Lanka, it's a development issue, and there is no resources. And it is so difficult for us to focus on disaster risk reduction when the country is having an economic crisis, development crisis. So, I would suggest that taking this complex nexus of development, climate change, DRR, and conflict as a potential, as an opportunity for innovators to come with innovative solutions in totality, not in isolation. The second one, I would say that, again, when I look at, I'm not pessimistic about disaster risk reduction. There is a substantial progress over the last 2 decades, substantial progress. But if you compare with infrastructure sector, if you compare with some other development sectors, perhaps there might be more innovations in those sectors compared to DRR. So how could we tap into those innovations and adapt those innovations into DRR sector is another area. I mean, if you look at the infrastructure, if you look at the construction, if you look at even road construction and so on, there are a lot of innovations around those. So how could we bring those innovations to accelerate the progress of DRR is another opportunity I think we all need to tap into. The third one is challenge and opportunity. There is at least recognitions about misperception or, wrong perception of innovations, as Dr. Valerie said. I was privileged to be part of evaluating the Sarti innovators in India. So we went through all the applications. When you look at the applications, most of them are, not all, but some of them, majority of them, are either tech or app or mobile, that kind of. I think it's a misperception. So it's needed. I'm not telling that those are not important. Those are important. But equally, we need innovations on governance. We need innovation on legislation. We need innovative institutions. We need innovation in leadership. We need innovation in networking. We need innovations in partnerships. Right? We need innovations in communication. We need innovation in connecting last mile. We need innovations in early warning system, because current situation is so complex. And with the climate change, perhaps the early warning system that has been designed maybe 1 decade ago, maybe several years ago, may no longer sufficient. We might need to modify, we might need to innovate how we communicate, connect last mile perhaps, right? So we need innovations beyond technology. We need innovations connecting with the community. So that recognition is being established. I think we should tap into that recognition and go beyond the traditional form of innovations around technology. And last but not least, when we were going through these Sarti applications, we saw some applications around gender-based violence. I mean, not when I say application, it's innovation application. It's not about technology applications per se. But there is a huge potential of such innovations to bring into the DRR and then help these innovators, but they might not see that angle yet because they might be more focusing on gender-based violence and related issues. But this is the very issue that we also talk in humanitarian response. This is the very issue that we talk in disaster risk reduction. So how could we nurture, how could we support, how could we work with these innovators, go one step further and bring these innovations to progress the DRR agendas forward. So likewise, I can maybe continue for another 2 hours, but there are ample opportunities, there are ample needs, problems that we can all solve together. And the last but not least, I must say that financing is not an issue for innovations. So we did an assessment as ADPC, something called landscape analysis on social innovation in Asia. And in that we map out number of initiatives that has been taken part in the region. Huge. When it comes to development partners, NGOs, UN, donors and so on. With that, Impact ADPC started several innovation-related programs, including Tech Image in India, funded by World Bank and FCDO. And then we have ongoing program called Climate Innovation Challenge. We have APP Social Innovations, and we have Sarti initiatives. Likewise, there are multiple platforms. And within ADPC, there are 4 programs already going on. And we are just a very small player in this ecosystem. So there are enough funding, financing opportunities in this ecosystem. We just need to mobilize this like-minded group, and perhaps in the next GPDRR, with the support of UNDRR and other like-minded partners in this forum, perhaps we should have a technical session, so high-level forum on innovation, social innovation. So this is just a kind request for our UN colleagues to think about. And perhaps, as FICCI is working with ARISE, perhaps they can play a bigger role realizing this kind of dialogues in the future forum. Thank you.
Thank you, Sizra. So I think very valuable points about climate being the most important. Obviously, it comes from how we're destroying the nature, COVID could also be a fallout of that as you've gone deeper into forests. Bats and habitats have to come out, and all of these viruses will escape. I think both talked a lot about cross-learning, localization, innovation. I think those are very, very important. Giving them a voice, taking them to a global platform, how many things can be looked at from a risk and disaster areas, which are innovations that are happening in other social areas. How do we look everything holistic in totality, and all the processes, everything that is there, all institutions, all players. And like Cicera said, there's no dearth of programs and money. And so maybe I'll just kind of, to that leading question in totality, when we look from outside, okay, it looks like something is happening there, but industry and may find it hard to connect, or people, innovators might find hard to connect, even social entrepreneurs. So they don't know how to reach that. So how do you build an ecosystem on all the work that is happening? How can participation come from a much wider set of audience, that they can deal with agencies like yours, okay? Both which are private foundations as well as governmental foundations or non-governmental foundations, to really look at, so how can we bring all this together? Because there might be a lot of programs that is happening, and I understand there's a lot of work that is happening, but how do we make it available to everyone? Do you have, or what other frameworks could be done? What other policies could be built up? Just some ideas on that, if you could share, both of you.
Thank you. This is a good question, because I think there's a lot going on, but it's for now a little bit scattered and a little bit everywhere. There's different way. I think coming back again is like, it's about culture change. How do we actually change the culture of how we do business in general? And it starts by even the simple conversation that we had with Fiki when we started this. We just, I remember Cecilia and I discussing with Fiki to say, you have all these platforms, how do we use it to just making it? And I think it requires a change in legislation, law, but also a culture. Is the Indian government see that as a valuable? Is the local state government is encouraged to put it as a priority? Do you start seeing it, as Cicera said, a work on the next GPDR as one of the thematic big space? Because I think it's about mindset shift, because it's there, but if we don't change the way we think about it, we probably will not get there. And I feel like there's a lot of opportunity to start making it almost compulsory in a way, asking government to have a budget. I said, you can have 5% just dedicated to social innovation in the budget, because we know we need to have it sustained, practical, but also implementing and sustaining with money on the time. And unless it's integrated in our DNA, integrated in the way we do business, we'll not get there. Then I think one of the things, how do we achieve this mindset shift, this culture of innovation? How do we infuse the culture of innovation? Should we even think about looking at the university? Remember when I was university, still long ago, there was this tendency to teach us to know things and to go to exam and repeat what you heard. But should we change it in school? Should we bring actually kids in the way we do the curriculum, a bit more innovative type approach, even infusing kids, because this is the future. And I think unless we see it as a mindset shift, a culture of innovation, especially in the low, medium income country, in the poorest community, they are so much on the day-to-day work that they don't even see that what they're doing is innovative. They just do it. But if you start saying, oh, by the way, it's part of it, then they start discover. And as Cicera said, if we start looking at innovation broader than IT and mobile, then only then we'll be opening the door to more than just IT. Because it can be frightening or even scary when you say innovation and you see these big IT people come in, the tech start doing things, and you're just doing a small something. Will you talk? Maybe not. But if you encourage, I think for me it's about our institution start prioritizing it. We saw now since the COVID, how the diversity, equity things is becoming part of, institutions start putting it as part of their, and it start happening. It's still a long way, but at least unless we start having, should we have a chief innovation officer in organization? For example, I think having a chief social innovation officer can be a good title, somebody that just looking for that will make a difference in a lot of organizations. But also, how do we bring together, I think usually you will have the government, you have the private sector, and you have the non-profit as a separate pieces. I think we have interest to put this different sector together. Government play a big role. Is government see the private sector as an opposite or the non-profit as a fighter? Or do they see that as a coming together? And I think we have a good opportunity here. When you look at FICCI and the government in India, we were hearing a lot of discussion to like how actually there's now a good cooperation between the government of India and FICCI. The private sector, they contributing, they working together. And for me, how do we bring the non-profit in that sector? This is the future, and this is how we can achieve it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Valerie. So, I would suggest that considering the role that India has played over the years in Asia, I mean, if there is no India, I must say that disaster risk management ecosystem in Asia will not be at this stage. Why I'm saying is that if you look at the disaster management institutions, disaster management legislations, disaster management practitioners, disaster management experts were trained or supported by India over the last 2 decades. So I see a big role that India as a country can play that role in promoting innovations and bringing that innovation into the next level. And you know, as I mentioned earlier, I'm from Sri Lanka. When I entered disaster management field 2 decades ago, I used to refer to the Indian legislation, Indian policies, Indian disaster management institutions, and so on. I didn't use the word that I copied, but the fact is that Sri Lanka adopted most of the disaster management institution and system from India, and obviously they evolved over the years. Likewise, if you look at any other countries in the region, role of India in shaping the disaster risk management ecosystem is huge. Therefore, I would suggest that perhaps since we have a like-minded group in this forum, maybe with FICCI, with the government of India, having that regional big player in the region, bringing innovation forward. And obviously, I'm talking on behalf of our Executive Director, Hans Goodman, with his blessing. You know, ADPC would be humbled to be part of that process, along with all other like-minded agencies. I'm sure, I don't want to talk on behalf of UNDRR since he's going to talk later on, but I'm sure all like-minded organizations would come together and work with India, bringing this innovation agenda forward. So as a framework, I think regional cooperation, as I mentioned earlier, innovation is one of the most important tools for promoting regional cooperations. And all the countries, all the partners, all the sectors need innovations. So why don't we tap into that opportunity, work as a group, like-minded group. If formal mechanism is difficult, we can start as informal, and then let's see how it goes. And Gate Foundation and few other development partners would be supporting. The last but not least, I just would like to highlight one part. You know, sometime you might feel like, oh, SARC is such a hugely financed initiative. No, including this event, including bringing these innovators to the global platform and allowing them to share and learn from this process, it is just less than $60,000. So, I mean, we need to be innovative in cost effectiveness as well. We are not talking about multi-million, $100 million innovations, no. It's all about how could we leverage the support, how could we support each other, and how could we cost effective in making these like-minded ideas into a kind of regional dialogue as we are doing today. So Alok, my suggestion is that let's not stop from today. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
Look, maybe I would just add something on CICERA. I think India play a role not just in Asia. I think a lot of the country, low, medium income country, are looking at India as a model, and India can actually influence in Africa, in Latin America. There's the potential and the opportunity is so big that I think you should use that opportunity in India to represent a little bit the South and to create that force of nature. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I think very encouraging for India. I think, I don't know how many of you know, there's an Indian word called jugaad. It's a Hindi word. So we say that, you know, for example, when you drive in a Western country, you don't expect anybody to make a mistake. So, and therefore, if any small disaster happens, lots of cars get done. When we drive in India, we think other guy will make a mistake. So we will end up always planning for a disaster while we are driving. So I think India has always lived with people finding their own solutions, and I think, thank you for recognizing that. I think culture, like you talked about, is extremely, extremely critical because it all starts from the intent and culture. You know, we can build whatever systems that are there, but if people, the hearts are not aligned and the culture is not there, finally nothing will get done. And we might end up wasting a lot of resources because intent and culture is everything. You need more dialogue, less money. I agree with you. Money is only required for proofs of concepts and you know, for dialogue and this thing, and not really. Models have to be sustainable. So budgets. So whenever we create, I'm sure agencies look for something that the same community should not come back and keep asking money. But they should really own the model, and social innovation should be more sustainable. And I think that's one point that got brought out from here. You also brought out in the challenges, you know, how we can really learn from nature. I think nature has all the answers, and in science and technology we called it biomimicry. So we can actually mime some of the solutions that nature has done and actually reproduce them using science and technology. So because it comes from nature, there is no adverse effect of those solutions in a way. So I think Chief Social Innovation Officer and lots of ideas where we can build these systems. But I think very importantly, can we have more dialogue, more forum of an ecosystem where constant people know what is there and can we bring it on a single platform. I think that's the biggest thing because a lot of things are diverse and outside people really don't understand that. I think I'll just come with the last question. Maybe an example or two from each one of you where something has really touched your heart or innovation or a program or something which you felt this is really done well. And it could be across any country because I think, and that'll be a good ending to this session.
Thank you, Alok. I will take Asian Preparedness Partnership Social Innovation Grant Challenge, which is going on, which is a kind of a regional initiatives calling upon, we have already selected 7 social innovations from, I think, more than 6 countries in the region. And what we are again trying to do, pretty similar to what we are doing in SART initiatives, but identify innovations, nurturing them, working with them, provide hand-holding support, and bridge the gap between the policymakers, industry, and the innovators. So that's a lot of potentials, and we believe that that's a small kind of initiatives. Again, it's not a big funding per se, but I see a lot of potential in that, I'm sure. as I talk on behalf of Hans earlier, now I'm talking on behalf of Dr. Valerie. And with the GATE Foundation, we initiated that process, but I see a lot of potential. I believe Dr. Valerie and Pillar, who is sitting in that table, will continue to be with us promoting social innovations under APP to bring that to the next level. And obviously India is not part of that initiatives, but in the future, obviously we can see how either we merge these things together or maybe we support each other as we move forward with our own path. But this is something that we are very proud of, and if any one of you are interested about APP social innovations, my colleague Killian is sitting in that table and he's the focal point. And we can give further details, including how to access, how to get to know each other, and all other details about that social innovations as part of APP. Over to you, Dr. Valerie.
Thank you, Cecilia. You gave me time to think. I've been kind of like, what type of innovation that is not something is tough? And I want to take an example, and it's just because I had that conversation with Pilar this morning. In 2015 or 14, there was the World Humanitarian Summit that came with the grand bargain about like, how do we start doing localization, bringing funding to 25% to the local organization. Everybody was excited, but it was not something that we knew how to do that. The system is not ready for that. And I think there's been a lot of initiative, one including NIR, that was actually at that creating to say, maybe we need to have a South together to decide how do we actually get ourselves at the table? How do we start being part of the conversation? And this for me, it took a lot of energy and creation to create the NIR network, to create South to South, coming together, sitting, thinking about that. And although the 25% didn't, to 2 to 25% did not change, but we see a dynamic in the sector now changing about how do we do the localization. And always, when I see that, there's always something that will accelerate the process, and COVID was an accelerator. Because suddenly nobody can travel, nobody can go anywhere, then what happened? We have to rely on the local people to do the work. And we realized that the work was done, and actually sometimes better. Then for me, that's first the intention, the people putting themselves together to think about how do we do that from the South perspective, and then the accelerator was COVID, because we didn't have choice. And actually today, we see a change in the sector on how something came like just an idea to actually become reality. Is still a long way to go for really the localization to be what it should be. But we see today, I heard that even donors now are willing to fund the localization South-South, the coalition to put to like, we want to put money. And I think that for me is an innovative way of changing the system for a better system. I wanted to try to find an example that is not the usual one. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Valerie and Sisra. So I think I'll end this conversation on that note, which you said there was no choice. And then local communities really performed, and many times better, okay? And I think that is what local communities, every human being has an innate strength, an innate intelligence, that there's a survival and what needs to be done, okay? And sometimes it goes beyond degrees and positions. And I think if we can really unleash the power of that community, I think that's one thing I really learned from today. And I'll give a quote of a philosopher called J. Krishnamurti, which says, choice is an illusion. When the mind is clear, there is no choice. So I hope that COVID and disasters that are happening, including climate change, gives us this clarity that there is no choice. We still think there's a choice, that we can delay this. It's at our own peril. I thank both the panelists, their wonderful experience, their knowledge, and I think most importantly, what touched me the most, They really care about this and they speak from the heart. So thank you very much. And a big round of applause for both the panelists.
Thank you so much. It was such an interesting session. We, in fact, learned a lot from the insights shared. And it was really a very wonderful interactive session. For the next session is also very interesting. It's on sessions on innovations and disaster management solutions. And for this session, may I request Ms. Diana Patricia Calais, Deputy Chief of UNDRR Regional Office for Asia and Pacific, UNDRR, to be on stage, please. Thank you so much. May I request Dr. Rajiv Shaw, Professor, Graduate School of Media and Governance, Keio University, to be on stage, please. Thank you so much. May I request Dr. Brigadier B.K. Khanna, Co-Chairman FICCI Task Force on UNDRR Arise India, to be on stage, please. Thank you. May I request Sri M.R. Dwivedi, Chief General Manager, Indian Oil Corporation Limited, to be on stage, please. May I also take this opportunity to thank, because without thanking him, this program wouldn't be successful. So Mr. Killian Murphy from Asian Disaster Preparedness Center. So I mean, all through the duration, he has been really helpful, working through nights, to work to make this program successful. May I also thank Tejas Patnaik from United Nations. He has been, always helpful from the UN side. He has helped us in all the ways, and that's the reason today UN is also here. So, not wasting much time, I would now give a brief profile of Mr. Dwivedi, Chief General Manager of Indian Oil Corporation Limited. So, Mr. Manas Ranjan Dwivedi, he belongs to the Indian Oil Corporation Limited Refineries Headquarters, Scope Complex, New Delhi. He is a graduate in fire engineering from National Fire Service College, Nagpur, under Ministry of Home Affairs, Government of India. Sri Dwivedi joined as graduate engineer trainee in Indian Oil Corporation's refinery division at Mathura Refinery during 1991. He has over 30 years of industry experience. He worked as in charge of regional health, safety, and environmental functions, design of fire protection system for numerous pipeline projects, which includes entire process of implementation of fire and gas detection systems, automatic rim seal fire protection systems for large diameter crude oil storage tanks. Recently, he has joined refinery headquarters of Indian Oil Corporation Limited and is heading the Health, Safety, Environment Division of Indian Oil. Before I request him to give his presentation, I would also mention that we have, unfortunately, Dr. Datta, who couldn't make it. So we have Dr. Devapriya Datta, who is the advisor and head scientist G, Mission Societal Science for Equity Empowerment and Development, State Science and Technology Program, Patent Facilitation Program, Associate Head of National Geospatial Program, Department of Science and Technology, Ministry of Science and Technology, Government of India, who will give his online address. So for now, may I request Mr. Dwivedi to kindly give his perspective from the Indian side.
Thank you, Mr. Manak. Very good morning to all of you. I am from industry, and my presentation will be mostly focused on what we do in our company, and as an industry, we should do all our best so that our work should not lead into any disaster to society, and how to take care of society. So, before I start my presentation, respected dignitaries sitting on dais, all the participants from over the world, and the innovators of India, who will be felicitated by this group during end of this session. I must thank my company to nominate me for this program, and I thank FICCI, BMG, ADPC for all the help and arrangement to make it possible to reach here with a very short notice. For last couple of days, most of the participants in this hall are participated in that global platform for disaster risk reduction, GP 2022, 7th edition. My presentation will be a little different from those. For all of you, IOCL is a energy measure in India with presence in almost all streams of oil, gas, petrochemical, and alternate energy sources. The great organization is served by a world of high caliber people, state-of-art technology, and cutting-edge R&D. Now I'll go through the presentation, and just to give an idea about the business space of Indian Oil, we have around 11 refineries with more than 30% of domestic refining capacity. And to deal with the bulk petroleum, be it crude oil or be it finished product, we have a underground pipeline, cross-country pipeline network of around 15,000 odd kilometers. And to store this petroleum product for consumption at different consumption points, around 120 odd depots and terminals are there. We have around lot of aviation fueling stations to fuel this aircraft, LPG bottling plants for serving the household as well as industry, lube oil blending plants, one of our innovative product for lubrication that is done by in-house in our research and development center. We have around 10 such blending plants all over India. Of late, IOC also started acquiring exploration and production assets. We are only downstream company, but now we enter into the exploration part of it. Around 20 such exploration blocks are available all over the world. And looking into the aspect of industrial operation leading to societal disasters, we are into reducing those type of emissions and into renewable energies such as into wind, solar, little bit nuclear, compressed biogas and biodiesel. And to cater to the need of our countrymen, around 13,000 domestic LPG distributors are there all over the country who caters to the need of the LPG requirement. And for innovation per se in industrial activity, not specific to societal disasters, what we are talking about, we have our world-class R&D center in Faridabad. And these 1,500 odd kilometers of pipeline network has around 100 odd stations. And the most important touch points for all these the customers who take petrol, diesel, or maybe gas, we have around 32,000 plus touch points, and we have all those products in for vehicular movement, like we have MS, HSD, LPG, and CNG stations all over the country to feed these. Going back to the details, little bit more about refinery. We have a group refining capacity of 80.55 million metric ton. approximately 32% of national refining capacity. And for environment protection, based on directive of government, we did transition of the product from BS4 to BS6 in a record time. This BS6, BS4 product basically differs with the content of sulfur in the fuel. So if you have a less sulfur fuel, then the emission to environment is less. Basically, we depend on more than 85% of imported crude. So these are few achievements of refinery. We actually process around 209 different grades of crude oil in our refinery, very complex type of operation. Of late, we started using natural gas in refining process so as to reduce the carbon footprint. Basically, we are into that direction. Then different streams are being shared among the refineries, and around we'll be executing different projects, increasing our processing capability to more than 17 million metric ton. And we have some subsidiaries, one subsidiary in Chennai. There also we have a plan of extending the production to 9 million metric ton. And looking into the value-added products, Indian Oil is now expanding to petrochemical business, and more of petrochemical is added, and about 1 lakh plus crores of project under implementation. This is the network of pipeline. We call it underground highways. Basically, this pipeline, Indian Oil doesn't own the asset to lay the pipeline. It is laid in the public property across the country, and we had this number of kilometers of pipeline. And the industry percentage length of pipeline is around 50%, and capacity about 40% capacity of total petroleum product that is being handled in the industries by Indian Oil Pipelines. This is the performance of pipeline. I'll not go through much on this. For selling the product, the performance of marketing division, it is pre-COVID, it was a bit more, 81.93 million metric ton. During COVID, it has dropped a bit, and now last year it is almost equal to pre-COVID type of consumption. Little bit low because of impact of people not moving out and vehicles not running on the road. Few customer-centric initiatives which directly, indirectly contributes to the protection of environment. Few branded fuels was launched in the market. XP95, extra premium 95 motor spirit. The octane number is 95, which reduces emissions and improves the mileage of vehicle that is being used with this XP95. Then extra green diesel, that is the cleanest fuel globally. All these formulation is by our own R&D center. Then we have this initiative of fuel at doorstep, like the dispensers move on to the customer's place and dispense the product at the doorstep of the customer. Looking into the problem of frosting in hilly area, our R&D has developed this servo defrost solution, which can be used for driving the vehicle in hilly areas. Then we are into this 5 kg and 2 kg small thread LPG cylinders of composite material. It is not a steel material, and nothing is required to procure this, no address proof, nothing is required. It can be done very safe and approved by the agencies who looks after this. And some initiatives of booking LPG through missed call and in mobile app. Around 50 lakh LPG cylinders were released under one of the flagship program of Government of India. During COVID, our R&D has developed one Extra-Guard nanotechnology based surface disinfectant, which protects the surface from getting infected for 3 to 4 days by application of this Extra-Guard solution. Few marketing highlights: highest ever lube sales despite COVID-19. Some environment-friendly lubricants like Servo Green Mile, Servo Raftar, Servo Pride, that's a futuristic grade lubricant for heavy-duty diesel vehicles that will reduce the pollution to environment. And with this Servo super brand, Servo is the brand of Indian Oil. It improved its global footprint, and we have presence around 35 countries. And in aviation fuel, we share a percentage of 62.5% in domestic market, and we expanded the operations in 9 new locations. It is basically to fuel the aircraft. It includes our defense aircraft as well as civil aircraft. 126 such stations are there in India to fuel all these aircrafts. So a few highlights of our research and development center. We have around 1,500 odd patents filed till 31st of March 22. And out of that, 1,410 are effective patents. That is doubled in last 5 years. 88 commercial patent family, that global average of commercialization. We have few technologies, indigenous developed technology, INDMAX delayed coker at few refineries of India. First of its kinds, waste plastic to fuel, that conversion technology, INDECO P2F, that is demonstrated in one of our refinery, where we convert this waste plastic into fuel. That trial project is on, and one of our refinery, it is successful. And it is not commercialized yet, but we'll try to do that soon. Hydrogen spiked CNG, that is also demonstrated in Delhi for few buses of Delhi, and it really improves the exhaust part of the automobile and adds to the protection of environment. Another initiative of solar cooker, Surya Nutan, that is developed by our R&D, in-house R&D technology. With solar cell, you can have a cooker, and the product is commercialized now. So, in Indian Oil's journey to clean energy foray, we have about 238 megawatt renewable energy capacity, which includes wind, electricity. And around 358 gigawatt hour of renewable power is produced in last year, and which reduced the emission to the tune of 283 TMT CO2 equivalent. We are into electric mobility, and we have these charging stations all over the India, and plan to increase it to 30,000 plus. And 7 battery swapping stations also are there, because that is the future, and Indian Oil is in collaboration with one of the company in Israel to produce aluminum air batteries, so that it is more efficient and used in our electric automobiles. We are also into green hydrogen production, that pilot project to assess multiple hydrogen production pathways through renewable resources. 1 TPD production capacity technology demonstration in 15 fuel cell bus you are doing, and planning to set up 5 KTA, that 40 megawatt plant at Mathura refinery, and 2 KTA 16 megawatt plant at Panipat refinery to promote this use of green hydrogen. So this is something on during COVID, what Indian Oil does in COVID, that we contribute to PM CARES Fund. We have medical insurance to all our business associates, not only employee. It is the contract workman who does job for LPG delivery and this fuel dispensing. And IOC has covered the ex gratia for these people also. These are a few aspects of corporate social responsibility. We did contribution in TMC, Tata Medical Center. We have a hospital in our one of our remote refinery at Digboi, which caters to requirement of our 20,000 odd beneficiaries. These are few CSR projects that is undertaken by Indian Oil. So, if you look at the business perspective of Indian Oil, the pipeline that certainly poses a risk to the public at large, because it traverses through cross country. So for creating awareness amongst the public at large, we had we developed a small video audiovisual I'll show. It's around 2 minutes audiovisual. What to do in case of a pipeline leak. Just I'd like to play that for all of you.
Indian Oil Corporation is committed to fulfill the energy needs of our great nation in safe and environment-friendly manner. Transportation of petroleum through cross-country pipeline is the safest and most environment-friendly mode of bulk movement of liquid hydrocarbons and gas. In case of accidental spillage of petroleum product or fire or smell of petroleum product in the vicinity of pipeline right-of-way, certain proactive actions by public can minimize adverse effect of these above incidents. In this video, we would like to take you through the steps which can be taken by the public to facilitate safety. If any spillage, fire, smell of petroleum product is observed in right-of-way, public should stay away at a minimum distance of 30 meters from the location in the upwind direction. IOCL officials should be contacted over toll-free numbers as mentioned on the caution boards. People should not light matches, smoke bidi or cigarettes. Should not carry ordinary torches or lamp near to the oil. No attempt should be made to collect the oil in containers and take it home. Any such attempt may lead to fire as well as loss of life and property. In case of oil spills in canal, river, stop the fishing, boating activities and inform the community to keep away from the spill. In case of any incident like spillage, fire, smell of petroleum product is observed in right-of-way, all the agricultural operations like ploughing, use of the tractors, irrigation of the fields, running the pump sets, etc. should be stopped till IOCL personnel inspect the site and give specific clearance. Any suspicious activity like digging or tampering, if observed in right-of-way, to be immediately informed to Indian Oil Corporation Limited and nearest police station. Safety is our highest priority and will always remain at the core of everything we do. We seek your cooperation and support in maintaining safety of the pipelines. Thank you for your kind attention.
This is the film which generally for public awareness we show it to the villagers because we don't have any control on the land where the pipeline is laid. This is one such activity that we keep on doing. We have a system of village awareness program whereby we always tell the villagers how our activity is going to adverse environment if it is properly not taken care of, how it may lead to disaster if a leakage of pipeline, a burst of pipeline, that will lead to a very disastrous situation. So this is one step we do. We call it Initiative on Safety Management System. So and a few other initiatives just I'll go through. We have implemented this automatic personal protective equipment monitoring system. Like our industrial activity, the persons working in our industry should not do some unsafe act. For monitoring of this, we have a AI-based system which monitors whether the people working inside the plant is using personal protective equipment or not. And the speed inside the operating premises also becomes a problem for us to monitor that automatically. We have speed guns through which we monitor the speed of vehicle, and automated emails are sent to the user concerned because we have all the users mapped into our system with the vehicle number. If vehicle speed increases, with some sort of the warning or email goes to the persons they get fined and all those things. Then road accident is also one of major challenge in Indian Oil for transporting this product, bulk transportation of product through road. So to enhance the knowledge of the TT drivers, tank truck drivers, we had simulator-based training drivers. For drivers, they are taught about how to drive safely in the road so that they do not lead to any accident. So natural disaster risk reduction, generally we have IOCL board approved disaster management plan which delineates all these steps to be taken in case of any disaster. That includes natural calamities like flood, cyclone, earthquake and all. And these are all developed based on NDMA and the Ministry of Petroleum, Government of India guidelines, and considering this topographical data and all those things. And we do carry out periodic mock drills to see the efficacy of the plan and to make our people aware about this. Few steps for cyclone and flood. Of course, it is as per government guidelines only we have this in our installation done. That's all from my side. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dwivedi. It was really a wonderful, hearing you about Indian Oil Corporation. It's one of the largest government's oil corporations in India, and perhaps one of the biggest in the world also. So, what now may I request, Brigadier B.K. Khanna, the co-chairman of FICCI Task Force on Event Year Arise, to please give his talk. Before calling Brigadier B.K. Khanna, he's an internationally renowned disaster management and climate change adaptation expert, and is heading and part of the Event Year Arise India, which is the UN affiliation for disaster risk reduction in private sector. He has been advising citizens during numerous webinars on preventive and precautionary measures to be taken while opening the economy during COVID-19. He is the co-chairman of the FICCI Task Force on Event Year Arise India, and he is also director and working chairman of Integrated Institute of Rural Development, Shimla. May I have your talk, please, sir?
Thank you, Manek, and good morning, everybody. It's an honor to be here to share my thought on the disaster risk reduction with this august audience. I'm going to speak on two major things. One, why innovations are required, and secondly, giving details about the Arise India. A lot of people have been asking about it. What is Arise India? They are thinking, most of them, this is one of the industries only. Let me say, in fact, what is the innovations or something? Innovations is like a water. A stagnant water, of course, will be smelling it after some time. It has to be a flowing water. How do you flow it? So the change has to take place. I remember in 1972 when I got married, it took me, in fact, almost about 2.5 hours to speak to my wife, which was there. But now, of course, I can speak to anywhere, so with the help of pass out message. So this is the innovation which have taken place. Coming to the disaster risk reduction itself. In fact, today and yesterday only I got WhatsApp here. So they, with the help of the drones, they are putting down the fire in a multi-story building. It was not there. I mean, that's why, of course, we have always finding it difficult how to, in fact, put out the fire. Now it is there. Drones, in fact, is a major innovation which has taken place. Even the war which is taking place there between Russia and the Ukraine as such, how do you think, of course, the Ukraine is able to sustain? Because of the drones. Otherwise, of course, as far as the Russians are concerned, because they were overwhelming, of course, firepower, overwhelming everything, they had it there. But still, they have not been able to move out. Whatever they wanted, they were not able to do it. And drone is one of them. So all those, of course, who knows about something about security part of it. So these drones have played a major role in picking up their journals, they're picking up the aircraft, they're picking up the tanks, etc. And the role which was played by the community is tremendous. That is where, of course, we want it. Because they say war is the major disaster, the most major disaster is there only. In case they have been able to successful that only within a short period of time, the community got converted into, okay, how do we go to water? That is where, of course, the innovations is taking place. So innovations is taking place in every field. But we have to pick and choose. We have to also know whatever is happening there. Something is happening everywhere. In India, I'm talking about India itself also. A number of startups, they are coming up. One of the startups is that the chap is not a educated person, but he has developed a gadget which can predict in the next about 24 hours to 48 hours what is going to be. And Yesterday he sent me a prediction that between 26th and 28th of this month, there is going to be a major disaster in any of the 4 states in India, that is Rajasthan, J&K, Himachal Pradesh, and Uttarakhand. I asked him, I said, are you sure? He said, 100% sure, otherwise I will destroy my machine. That is the innovation. But he said that I have gone to various places, but nobody is listening to me. They say that, okay, scientifically proof requirement is there. He said that I am giving a proof of the practical. So we should be encouraging not only scientifically this also, but encouraging such of the people also. In some of these, I mean, taking this only from the Arise India side also, we have taken the 2 major initiatives. One, of course, with the help of Professor Rajiv Shah, that is RICA India. We conducted the innovations there in the universities and as well as the colleges, that is basically both from Japan as well as also India. Within 1.5 months, so new innovations came up. In this month, in this year only, in fact last year, August, we started off innovations in the schools. And we gave them, okay, SDGs only, have some innovation. How do you think the SDG innovations can take place in the university? We gave them 6 months. With the help of ActionAid, because so we did it, and the prizes were given now in the month of March. I had sent, of course, here only. I think it has not been displayed out here only, but I will share it with you. Tremendous, of course, innovation which they have come up there only. My point coming up here, this thing is there. Only the innovations are taking place in each and every field. What is major thing which is requirement is there? How do you coordinate what is happening where? So my recommendation to this thing is there only that we should have at the national level, we should have at the state level, we should have at the district level, we have, because so in the industry level itself, we have some, in fact, this thing that how innovations are taking place, and then of course get it recorded, and particularly to the industry, I mean, I think I must share it that I have conducted more than 2,100 mock exercises, and most of them they have been in the industries when I was in the National Disaster Management Authority. So, well, of course, Indian Oil and similarly some of the other Reliance, etc., some of the companies, so they have got, I mean, as he was also indicating it, they have got research project. But the one which is with the one also MSMEs, we can say it, or when the middle one also, there is nothing on the research side. They're all basically dependent only whatever is there only. And another word which is there in, of course, not all of course Indians will remember it, but in Una is Jugaad. Jugaad is that we have to get it done something or the other. You do it something, because it will be there only. With the help of in fact, a generator only, you can, in fact, have anything, whether it's electricity, whether it's water, or whether it's moving the vehicle. That's Jugaad. That is basically the one which is taking place in India, will be there only. But yes, this what is requirement is there, that we have to get it organized in a proper manner. That's what requirement is there. That was my, of course, what my take is there on the innovations, that yes, we should have these innovations, but there is a need for the industries, basically, especially, to have research, in fact, divisions also. It is normally considered as a burden, because there is nothing output on that one, but the longer output will be there in case you have them only. Similarly, at the district level, similarly at the state level, and of course at the national level. From the private sector, of course, we will do it. I will just tell you it how in the Arise we have it. We are going to start it off. Coming to the Arise India. Arise India, of course, like say the UNDRR, you have got, in fact, one is the government sector, the other is the private sector, etc. Private sector was included in September 2015, when of course, the Sendai framework was, in fact, signed in March, on 18th of March 2015. But then they realized, okay, governments themselves may not be able to implement the Sendai framework. You require the services of the private sector, and that was in September only. Whatever the private sectors were there only, they were combined together, and Arise was the one which was formed only. In Asia, of course, we have got 3 Arise networks. and that is Arise Japan, Arise Philippines, and Arise India. That is the role. Like Arise, similarly we have got a number of other stakeholders also. Women and children at center of the in the medical field also, in the old people, etc. There are number 19 of them there only. So that is basically what is known as the stakeholders engagement mechanism. In short, stakeholders engagement mechanism, SEM in short. So Arise is also part of the SEM, etc. And then of course the UNDRR, etc. So the Arise India, in fact, basically our mother organization is FICCI. FICCI became a member of Arise in 2017, August. And in 2019, March, of course, we became a network. It's only after that only I should know it. The COVID started off. So whatever initially planned we had it, we were not able to implement it. But yes, now that the COVID has subsided, we have got the plans as well. Now, what is the one? That's basically the Arise India is disaster risk reduction in the private sector. Whatever is going to, having a private sector, of course, all the industries, of course, as well as the other organizations, they can become a member of Arise India. There is no membership fee. What is, in fact, the advantage? Of course, you will get it. One is that, of course, whatever is happening anywhere in the world, in the ambit of what is the UN is there, so you will get to know information. We get it, we share it with our Arise India members. Similarly, whatever the other members are taking, there were, in fact, besides this network, there are about, I think, 350 or 360 members are there of Arise. So whatever is happening in those particular areas, that also is being shared with us. And of course, we share it with the others. So hence, we say it's a win-win situation as far as industries are concerned. So please do become a member of Arise India. You will be the one who will be much more gainer. So we will be happy that yes, we will be able to help you out. In fact, in your own, in the successful of all your projects, etc. And also the latest. You will be able to know as to whatever is happening all over the world as such on the disaster risk reduction as such. In a nutshell, I will say, yes, innovation has been, is, and in the future also will remain ongoing. There is nothing that, yes, we have finished it out here and there is nothing else to do, but yes, we should be able to know. Now the situation has come up where the information is so much information is available, you don't know where to get it. So hence, of course, for the decision making, you have to cut short how to get it there so that the decision making by the decision makers also is easy. So that is where, of course, the role comes up here only of our organization like the Arise India, or like similarly the district, similarly, of course, we have got the Tejas, of course, from the in the Bangkok also we have got their offices. There also we keep on getting a lot of information from them. So those are the these are the organizations. We will be coordinating everything and giving it back to you. You are getting implemented information, getting the, in fact, giving you a platform for coming out to wherever the various organizations, wherever the programs are there only. That is our responsibility or something. So please concentrate on the innovations. And do become part of Arise India. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. It was indeed a very visionary statement, and also from UNDRR Arise India. So now, may I request Dr. Rajiv Shaw, Professor, Graduate School of Media and Governance, Keio in University, to give his special address. Before that, on behalf of UNDRR Arise India and Federation of Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, let me congratulate Dr. Rajiv Shaw for getting the Sasakawa Award 2022. May I have a round of applause? So Dr. Shaw is a Japanese national of Indian origin. He is a professor of Graduate School of Media and Governance in Keio University, Sonan Fujisawa campus. Earlier, he was the Executive Director of Integrated Research on Disaster Risk, a decade-long research program co-sponsored by International Council of Science. He is also in the board of members of United Nations International Strategy for Disaster Risk Reduction. He is also a senior fellow of Institute of Global Environmental Strategies, Japan, and chairperson of SEEDS Asia and CWS Japan. and other different organizations. So over to you, Dr. Rajiv Shaw, for your special address, please. You can come here, or you can speak from there also. It's your choice. No worries, yeah.
Thank you very much, and a very good morning to all of you. And first, I congratulate all the organizers for organizing this excellent event. I must say that this panel discussion was just amazing. I personally took 2 pages of notes, and I think the key words which came from the panel discussion, these were just amazing key words. Like we talked about North-South divide in the technology, we talked about community innovation, we talked about importance of social innovation. It's not only, and I think many of the panelists have mentioned that this innovation is not just the technology. Shishira mentioned that there are so many different aspects of innovation in different fields. And also we talked about this Jugaad innovation, and that's another very interesting topic. I always ask my Japanese student to read that famous book on Jugaad innovation. So let me reflect a couple of points here, what I learned from this particular session, as well as the current work which we are doing. You know that if you look at the overall evolution of this DRR field, back in 1990s, 2000, we have been talking very strongly on the importance on community-based disaster risk reduction. And then it has become a well-accepted part of it that anything we actually need to have a community-based disaster risk reduction. For last, I guess, at least after Sendai, but I will say maybe 2012, 13, for last 10 years or so, this innovation is becoming now a very, very important word. And I hope that by maybe another 4 or 5 years, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 years, this innovations becomes I will say, yes, this new normal, possibly, that it has to be part of the disaster risk reduction. And when I say the private sector or the industry's role, many of us who have been in this field for a long time, you will recall that 1990s, the last conference of the International Decade of Natural Disaster Reduction. That time it was IDNDR. We had a few private sectors, but those were mostly insurance and reinsurance companies. So that time, the role of private sector was more on the reinsurance and insurance. Then it changed to corporate social responsibility, CSR. In 2000, we have seen major disasters in different parts of the world, and we saw that the private sector came very strongly with lots of post-disaster funding, which have been used for corporate social responsibility. And I think that 2015, the Sendai framework was possibly one of the major turning points when we don't say just the role of private sector anymore. We say that the private sector or industries as the major game changer in the whole concept of the risk reduction and resilience building. I give you a couple of examples first with my current work. With my recent involvement in the IPCC, some of you might have seen the latest report, and I was privileged to be part of it, working group 2 as the CLA, coordinating lead author for Asia. And we found that water is a major sector which will have a major, we call in the IPCC definition as the high confidence statement. That means there will be water stresses both in urban area and rural area all over Asia. Of course, it is globally, but I'm just focusing on the Asia because that's what I did intensive work in this IPCC report. And we have been actually working with some of the small startup. It started small in Japan. So it's, you can Google this name called WOTA, water. What they did is that how with a limited amount of water, you can use the AI-based recycling to make the water usable over a longer period of time. It's a very small cylinder, and the product also got some major ministries sort of design award like that. And it's a small cylinder with a 20 liter of water, and then you can actually use it for hand washing over an unlimited period of time, and it does not need a water pipeline. So it can be kept in any shopping center, and actually during COVID, it made a big boom actually. Everywhere the people who didn't want to use the alcohol because of the skin issues and so on, so they were using this for the water, like the hand washing. And this has also been used in some of the post-disasters places, like when in Japan, when we have the disasters, people take shelter into the schools. And when you take the shelter in the school, of course, there is no shower facility. So these, they have this shower booth, again, around 100 liter of water. With that, you can actually keep on using, because the water is, again, purified, and they use the AI for this, the filtering of this particular water. So this is, to me, it's a very important example where the core has come from a demand-based solution. Because many times we do the innovations in the university, as we have been doing it for several years, and then we found that there is no use of that. So my first point here is that we need to possibly think that what is the need at the community, or what are the needs at the field, where at the market, and try to customize some of the innovations based on that particular market demand. And there, I often use this, some of you possibly heard me speaking on this particular statement, that we often say the last mile connectivity. And when we say last mile connectivity, we are like the mile zero, and we are giving some solutions, some service to the community. So that is the last mile. But I think we need to change that last mile as our first mile, to put mile zero at the core of the community, and try to see that what are the requirements there. And that's how this whole words of the co-designing, co-production, and co-delivery of the solutions becomes very, very important. And I'm sure that there are many examples of this, but the basic principles is very important, and we need to actually change our mindset on that. So that's my first point. The second point for innovation is, I strongly believe that breaking the comfort zone is very, very important. And by comfort zone, I mean, of course, the academics are very, always happy to be in their own comfort zone. But it's not just the only academics or the disciplinary comfort zone. It's also the stakeholder comfort zone. When we have the academics, we are working on the academics, private sector with the private sector, civil society with the civil society, local government with the local government. But I think somewhere we need to come out beyond this comfort zone, and to have more innovation and more collaboration. And who can do that? I will strongly argue that, yes, possibly youth and young scientists are possibly the forerunner of breaking this particular comfort zone. So I strongly focus on this importance of youth and young scientists. Brigadier Khanna mentioned about our work with FICCI, with some of the universities in India and Japan, and tried to do this hackathon. And we found that there are lots of bright ideas among the youth or young innovators, but possibly what we don't have is a platform where they can actually provide this idea, get some mentorship, get some sort of incubation of those ideas. And that's what I strongly feel, that there is a strong need of this, generating an innovation ecosystem. In my university, I am now in Keio University in Japan. Before that, I was in Kyoto University. I spent 13 years in Kyoto, and now this is my 5th year in Keio. And we often say in Japan that Kyoto produced largest number of Nobel laureates in Japan. We had 8 Nobel laureates in Kyoto. And Keio produced largest number of company CEOs. You just name any, whether it is Nissan, Toyota, the big names actually, Nikon, Canon. So the CEOs come from Keio. So for last 5 years, working with a different mindset, what I try to mean, that is my personal learning, that the entrepreneurship mindset among this new youth or the university student, how we generate that entrepreneurship mindset. Ideas are good, but only having ideas will not give you the market. So you need to somehow link it with the market. And that, in my university, we have a startup grant around $45 million US. So any student from from my university with a professor, or even from outside, but some link with the university. So if you have a good idea, you can just propose that idea. There are evaluation, mentorship, and so on. So this is a system which is created, and I'm sure that there are possibly this type of ad hoc system in many countries, but we possibly need a little bit of streamlining some of this system so that these youth and young innovators have a platform just to bombard with their disruptive ideas. So that's my second point, which is very, very important. At least I feel that there needs to be this type of platform. And the third point, which is again my own experience working with, like in my capacity as the co-chair of the Science Technology Advisory Group of UNDRR, we have been working with many of the governments, national, local level for science advocacies and so on. But this innovation and governance, I think it's a major disjoint, I will say. The innovation, the speed is very high. The technology, the speed is very, very high. But the governance, the regulation doesn't change that fast. And it's not a criticism, it's a fact that you can't change the regulation every year, so then it's not a regulation. So regulation will be there, possibly, the legislation will be there possibly over years, but I think the governance, ways of governance, and what I call this adaptive governance, the adaptive governance need to be changed to incorporate some of these innovations into practice. Because sometimes we know that there are good innovations, but due to some regulations, we just can't make this happen because we have the legislations and all those type of things. So how we actually make this challenge, and this cannot be done by only government. Again, it's an collective efforts of government, with the industry, with the technology, with the social, the civil society and so on. I think it's a collective efforts which is required. So that the speed actually is a really major challenge. I don't have a very specific answer to this, but I really feel that we need to think about very strongly. And my last point is that, you know, we talk about now very much on the startups, and again, it has become a buzzword. We always talk about the startups, which is good. India has the third largest startup ecosystem, and now in Keio University, we established this India-Japan Center, and we are trying to learn from the Indian startup that how it can actually make a value addition to Japan and of course in the region. But it's not only just the startup. Innovation is also with these micro, small, medium enterprises. So MSMEs, many of the MSMEs which are rooted in the local community, they have also lots of innovations. Possibly we need to also recognize, and we should not forget this role of MSMEs in creating, generating different types of innovations in the disaster risk reduction. There are many different aspects I wanted to speak, but I think the time is limited, so I will stop here, and thank you very much for your kind listening.
Thank you, Dr. Shaw. It's always a pleasure hearing you and your wonderful thoughts, shared. It's just like a form of recommendations which goes through. Thank you, sir, for your kind presence. The next, though Dr. Devapriya Datta is not here, but he has given a special video message. And just a brief about Dr. Devapriya Datta. Dr. Devapriya Datta, he is an advisor and head, Scientist G, Mission, Societal Science and Equity Empowerment and Development, State Science and Technology Program, Patent Facilitation Program, Associate Head of National Geospatial Program, Department of Science and Technology, Ministry of Science and Technology, Government of India. So before his address, I wanted to give a brief about Dr. Devapriya Datta. Dr. Datta is the head Scientist G, Mission, Societal Science for Equity, Empowerment and Development, State Science and Technology Program, Patent Facilitation Program, Associate Head of National Geospatial Program, Department of Science and Technology, Ministry of Science and Technology, Government of India. He has completed his PhD from the Indian Agricultural Research Institute, New Delhi, and joined the National Agriculture Research Service of the Indian Council of Agricultural Research. He served as scientist in the Central Oil and Water Conservation Research and Training Institute, Dehradun. He was also appointed as a counselor to Science and Technology in the Embassy of India, Washington, D.C. During 2008 to 2012. May I have his video address, please?
Good morning, Bali. Greetings from India. At the outset, I would like to congratulate the Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry, FICCI, the Asian Disaster Preparedness Center, ADPC, and Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation for organizing this dialogue on role of innovations in disaster risk reduction and the Sarathy Awards, where incidentally I was involved from its conceptualization. As a theme talk on these occasions, I would like to share with you the science and technology-based innovation for the disaster risk management. As you are aware about that the innovation doesn't come only from the science and technology, therefore I would like to focus on this. All of us know that the Sendai framework in 2015 has brought the shift of the focus from managing disasters to the reducing risk, which requires a better understanding of risk in all the dimensions of environment, hazards, exposure, and the vulnerability, and the DRR for the long-term resilience, which should factor in the planning and development at all levels across the sectors, disaster preparedness, rehabilitation, recovery, reconstruction, and support the interface between policy and science for decision-making. In this context, India has its own National Disaster Management Plan, NDMP 2019, in alignment with the Sendai framework, which has main 5 pillars, which conform to the national legal mandates and in alignment with the global goal as per the agreements which India is a signatory, like in the Sendai framework, the SDGs, the COP21 Paris Agreement on climate change, Prime Minister's 10-point agenda for DRR, which was decided in the 2016, and social inclusion as a ubiquitous and the cross-cutting principle, which is the focus of this dialogue today. Mainstreaming the DRR as an integral feature, and I believe that Sarathy is a great, initiatives towards this. All, if you want to look into in the Indian context, these are in alignment with these 14 actions for the science and technology-based DRR prescribed by the Asian Science and Technology Conference for the Disaster Risk Reductions. And if we look into the details, for understanding the disaster risk, the focus we have placed on this space in disaster risk mapping technologies. For risk governance, the science policy practice, the interdisciplinarity of the national science and technology. For investing in the DRR for the resilience, to ensure risk-sensitive investments to enhance the role of the SNT community, and enhancing and showcasing the projects that promote the SNT-based DRR and encourage governmental and the social investment in the DRR. For the enhancing the disaster preparedness for effective response in the Build Back Better, promoting the role of the multidisciplinary SNT in effective pre-disaster planning, preparedness, response, rehabilitations, recovery, reconstructions, effective cooperations among the science community and the business sector by utilizing ICT, and research innovative and practical solutions to promote this. So, in alignment with this, the Department of Science and Technology, Government of India, has taken an initiative for this DRR, especially in the context of the landslide. As you see here, different initiatives has been taken, as you can see here, starting from the hazard zonation, slope stability, site-specific geophysical surveys, early warning, modeling, and simulations. After the 2013, that after the Kedarnath tragedy in the northern part of India, there was a damage assessment mapping was focusly conducted by this department. So these are some of the outputs, as you see here, the landslide hazard map of India, which brings out the different level of the vulnerability of the different parts of India in terms of the landslides. There is a Bureau of Indian Standards, which is developed a standard for the hazard zonation mapping. The risk analysis in the context of the landslide prone areas, methodology has been developed for that based on the geospatial data. And in order to understand the processes in the 3D level, 3D landslide susceptibility maps are being generated and utilized. satellite imagery because of the strength of India's satellite programs and used as routinely for the risk assessment. Similarly, this has been used for monitoring the artificial lakes due to landslide, which recently created a huge disaster in the northern part of India. Landslide inventory from the satellite imagery is a routine affair and now a part of the many disaster the management organizations in India. Synthetic aperture radar interferometry techniques have been used for the slow-moving landslide, and methodology has been developed for that. Early warning systems, the emphasis has been developed on its development in the research, which basically it detect the events that precede a disaster in time to issue an imminent hazard warning. In the context of the earlier warning systems of the landslides, there are many the implementations and the research going simultaneously in different the landslide prone areas of the country. As you can see here, ground-based monitoring system for the landslides using the state-of-the-art technologies have been deployed in many parts of the the country. In order to supplement these initiatives, the Department of Science and Technology Government of India has established a national geotechnical facility in Dehradun. An exclusive networking program in northeastern states for the geological mapping, geotechnical investigation has been developed in different aspects of the landslide, and also to develop a multi-institutional networking among 12 research and development organizations in the northeastern and other part of the country. A national center for the geodesy has been set up and the Indian Institute of Technology, Kanpur, in order to strengthen that the mother of the geotechnical science, that is the geodesy. For the coastal hazard and the risk assessment, a program has been developed to cover the coastal area of India from the perspective of the DRR for vulnerability assessment in the coastal erosions, the tsunami modeling, development of the coastal hazards prevention measures, and many of them has been taken as in piloting for the implementations at the coastal areas. Now, from the knowledge to the resilience building within the community, the department is also working with the community-based organizations for the developing the disaster risk reductions at the ground level. This is an example of one of the states in India, the Uttar Pradesh, a part of it which is not known, where village level digital elevations modeling, the contouring has been developed and in associations with the community, so that the low-lying and the inundated areas can be identified a priori, and accordingly the gradient, through the gradient smart farm planning can be done gradient based. So the appropriate crops can be selected during on durations of maturity and the water logging period. This has been done in a participatory manner, so at a micro level, so that it helps in identifying waterlogged areas, supporting the slope and the gradient identifications and the interventions. As a result of that, not only the villagers have adopted these technologies, how it is contributing to the SDG is that it has improved the income of the small and marginal farmers. The soil erosions has been reduced, the soil moisture has been maintained with the gradient-based farm planning, and the digital elevations map of the villages developed, the gradient of the villages comprehended by the villagers have developed their capacity for the disaster risk reductions. And this has become an integral part of the implementations of the India's National Employment Generations Program. After the COVID, another initiatives have been taken for these community COVID resilience resource centers, which we believe beyond the pandemic situations will be community resilience resource centers. The goal of it is to build this science, technology, innovation-based resilience against various uncertainty at the community level, which includes the different disasters in the climate change, also for developing an equitable, sustainable, and the resilience. These objectives are to strengthen and supplement various initiatives for resilience building at the community level, especially after COVID and the pandemic situation, capacity building and relevant STI solution at community level, strengthening the STI-based socio-economic and ecological resilience of the community. And the candidate CCRRCs, we have around 30 CCRRCs we have established across the country. And what is suggests that many of these Saarathi awardee technologies could be taken in the CCRRCs and can be tested so that the disaster resilience component of that can be taken and an integrated, the community level resilience we can develop. And with this, I thank you all for listening to me, and I wish you that this dialogue on the role of innovations in disaster risk reductions will be a game changer for the policy, the knowledge, working together, and how we can strengthen and build up the resilience within the community. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was Dr. Devapriya Datta from Government of India. Now, may I request Ms. Diana Patricia Khaled, Deputy Chief of UNDRR Regional Office for Asia and Pacific UNDRR, to provide her inaugural address. Before handing over the mic to her, I would give a brief about Ms. Diana Patricia. She has worked in UNDRR Regional Office for Africa as Program Officer. Prior to joining UNDRR, she worked at the IOC UNESCO in Paris, where she supported a regional tsunami early warning program in the Caribbean. She worked also at UNESCO and UNDP in Haiti in disaster risk reduction programs, mainly in areas as early warning systems, public awareness, preparedness, and volunteer management. She holds a master's degree in international management from the University of Applied Sciences in Münster and a MSc in Geographical Information System from the University of Salzburg. Over to you, Ms. Diana, for your inaugural address. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that introduction. I had forgotten some of those points that you mentioned, but it's very difficult what I have to do now after all these speakers. So I hope that my innovative skills will help me here to contribute somehow to this discussion. But for us, I think the first point that we want to mention is to thank all for being part of the global platform. For us, it's extremely important that this event is multi-sectorial and brings the different views on DRR from private sector, from RIs, from the Chamber of Commerce, from academia, from the disaster management agencies and the different partners that work on disaster risk reduction. I will take the liberty to try to go through some of the most interesting points that I capture, but for sure there are many more. I think this idea that innovation is not only technology, I think we all agree and we feel it and we know it, but sometimes it's hard for us to keep this message going in our work with our partners and in the discourse that we keep. So there has been a lot of innovation in the disaster risk reduction discourse as well. We started a long time ago with a hazard-oriented approach, and we have moved and evolved to a more human-centered and vulnerability center, or whatever the name we want to give it now, in the area. So we have also brought innovative ideas to the field of work that we do, and I think this should continue being the motto. Dr. Valérie, she mentioned the importance of having this mindset, this change in mindset, not only mainstreaming innovation, but also what are the new ideas that we are putting into the sustainable development efforts and how we are changing the society and transforming the society we live in to reduce risk with the support of all the different partners. So, and in a more pragmatic manner, it was mentioned the role of the citizens and participation, localization. Dr. Shaw mentioned the role of youth and different stakeholders at the local level, and how these ideas that we need to bring as an inspiration to innovate come from the needs of the citizens and the local level, and how we can adapt these areas of innovation to the needs of the citizens and the last mile. Sometimes I think about the last mile concept, and I think it's very fluid, because we are also sometimes the last mile. I think with COVID, we were all impacted, our families were impacted. So sometimes we think we are in the disaster risk reduction and we are here and the last mile is there. But I think it's a little bit more complex than that, and I think we all agree, that's what you were raising, Dr. Shaw, that what is the last miler, with whom and for whom, and how we work together with the different stakeholders, and sometimes we are also part of the people that are impacted and where innovation is needed to change things. I like very much what Cecilia mentioned in terms of the substantive progress we have done as a DRR community, but also how other sectors are doing impressive evolution and changes through innovation, and how we can learn from other sectors, and how the DRR community can bring that knowledge into our paradigm. And we saw it here with the different presentations from the private sector, from ARISE, how these ideas come together in the DRR community. So I will leave it there, just saying that thanks again for joining us in the global platform. Today is the last day, so I hope that this event and other events will give also the further opportunities to exchange and share learning like we are doing here, and capitalizing on the experiences of different stakeholders, and also having the opportunity to recognize through some awards and through some official or explicit recognition some of this effort. And congratulations again for the award, and looking forward for the awardees of the next step of the Sarti Awards. So thanks a lot, and over to the chair.
Thank you so much. It was really wonderful hearing you, and it's a pleasure having you in this forum. Thanks a lot. May we have a round of applause for the entire set of panelists, please. Thank you. Now we'll start with the Strengthening and Amplifying Resilience to Innovation Sarti Initiative Award Ceremony. And to give a concept background, may I request Mr. Killian Murphy from Asian Disaster Preparedness Center to be on stage, please. May I request Mr. Akhil Gupta, Head of Disaster Risk Management Division, FICCI, to be on stage, please. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this last section of the event today. So this is moving towards the actual Sarti initiative, some background, and also the Sarti Awards itself. I think so far we already heard quite a lot about this. And in the previous sessions, we heard a range of insights from a lot of distinguished speakers on this subject of innovation in DRM. And we will also hear from some of the actual innovators who have come from India today, and we'll have a snapshot about some of the work that they have been doing. So it will be some more tangible examples of this actual innovation in DRM. So in this session, I will give some more background on the Strengthening and Amplifying Resilience Through Innovation, or Sarti initiative, which was launched by FICCI and ADPC with support from BMGF. So as we have heard in some of the earlier discussions, disaster risk management operations are becoming complex and require changing technologies, and aside from technologies, new approaches, tools, and more efficient and cost-effective solutions that are both easily accessible and also adaptable across the whole spectrum of the disaster management cycle. So some of the insights that we heard from the previous panelists really gave some ideas about the opportunities and challenges around that. And in line with these efforts, the main objective of this Strengthening and Amplifying Resilience through Innovation, or SARTI initiative, was to foster and promote responsible, innovative solutions for building sustainable, environmental, human and economic disaster resilience in the new normal through some actual innovative solutions which have taken on different forms. And in the next session, you will get a snapshot of some of the innovations that have been derived under this actual challenge. So under the wider objective of the SARTI initiative, innovators were encouraged to submit their solutions across 4 relevant themes. So these were around the areas of risk communication, early warning, health systems and infrastructure, as well as the promotion of cleaner and climate-friendly technologies. So you will see when we show some of the examples of the actual innovative solutions, they cover these 4 different aspects of disaster management. Just to give you an idea about the timeline of the initiative, so the obviously planning and back end of this whole initiative has been going on for some time, but the actual initiative publicly itself was launched in February 2022, so earlier this year. It was during an online ceremony, and shortly after that, the expression for interest or public call for applications went out to different organizations. So we really spread this across different networks. So it went out to FICCI's extensive private sector network, entrepreneurs, academia, NGOs, and so on. And we were glad to receive over 100 applications by the end of the deadline for the receipt of applications. So here today, 10 of the finalists were selected after a comprehensive evaluation process, and a number of domain experts helped assess the different innovations themselves. And really the idea is not just to give funding or even technical support, but build a community of practice. So by bringing these at least 10 innovators here to the global platform, it was able to bring up more discussions and showcasing of these different innovations at the different platforms. So here you can see a snapshot of the 10 finalists. We will give a bit more detail about what they have actually worked on. You can see that there was a range of applications across the different themes of the challenge and from different various types of organizations. And in the next part of the session, we will move towards actually recognizing and awarding the 10 finalists and also 3 main winners of the SARTI challenge. At this point, I will hand over to my colleagues from FICCI to facilitate the award ceremony. Akil, please.
Thank you, Killian, for the detailed introduction on the SARTI initiative and the amount of effort that has gone into, coming to this stage. So, before we proceed, I would just like to mention from FICCI's side and want to reiterate that we at FICCI stand committed to working in the area of disaster risk reduction along with the stakeholders at regional and global level. And SARTI is one such initiative, an example of PPP, where we collaborated with ADPC and BMGF to work this out. And we at FICCI are running several such projects, multi-stakeholder projects, innovation projects, where we continue to scout innovations, recognize them, award them, and help them to scale and achieve the desired and impactful outcome. Coming back to SARTI, there has been a lot of effort that has been put in by all the stakeholders, including our innovators, to get this far. And we are pleased to commence the award ceremony. And as Killian mentioned, the top 10 finalists are all winners for us, right? I will take this opportunity to thank our partners, especially ADPC and BMGF, all the dignitaries, Diana, Hans Gutmann, Dr. Rajiv Shaw, Sisira, and all the other dignitaries for being present here today to grace the occasion and encourage our innovators. Without wasting much time, we'll start with the names of the innovators who were not able to make to top 3. So we'll start with the award ceremony now. So starting off, I'd request Bhupender Mishra from the Resilient Foundation to come up to the stage for collecting the award, and I would request Dr. Valerie to be on the stage to present the award. Congratulations, Bhupin. Our best wishes to you for scaling this up further. We certainly believe safety has to be inculcated as a culture and as a moral value too, right from the very beginning. And starting this at the primary level in the school can be an important intervention going forward. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, moving ahead, I'd like to call upon Dr. Kalidas and Dr. Bhanumati Das, and I'd like to invite Dr. Rajiv Shaw on the stage to hand over the award. Dr. Rajiv Shaw, if we can have you on the stage, please. Dr. Rajiv Shaw. Congratulations, Dr. Kalidas. You did mention in one of your sessions yesterday the number of accidents that are caused by fly ash can hugely be reduced by this technology, which is also eco and environment friendly. We thank you for taking part in this initiative and look forward to seeing you taking this to the next level. Thank you. Moving forward, I'd like to call upon Dr. Vinay Saini from TUMAS. Dr. Vinay Saini. Can I have Dr. Brigadier Khanna, Dr. Brigadier Khanna to present the award? Ladies and gentlemen, can we have a huge round of applause, please? Congratulations, Dr. Saini. While the pandemic still continues to spread its wings across the world, this low-cost molecular test can be an important tool for quickly testing, tracking, and deploying the corrective measures on ground. Thank you. Our felicitations to you. Thank you. Moving ahead, I would like to call upon Mr. Pratap from Porthole Raja. Can we have Cecilia on stage, please? Congratulations, Pratap. You did bring forward quite alarming figures when you mentioned about in your pitching session itself on the number of accidents and probable disaster that potholes can cause. Further, the rapid deployment of temporary roads and surfaces during disasters that can be done using your unique technology can immensely aid the relief and response work. We look forward to hearing more from you. Thank you. Thank you. Moving on next. Can I call upon stage Mr. Dwivedi and Professor Chande? Mr. Dwivedi. Thank you, Professor Chande. An integrated disaster management platform can certainly play a pivotal role in planning, implementing, and delivering effective relief and response mechanism. And we certainly hope to see this innovation go to the next level and how it can actually aid on-ground effort, pre-planning, and efficient response. Thank you. Moving next, I'd like to call upon Amjad Ali and Shahzeb from Save the Quest. And I'd like to call upon Mr. Taneja. Mr. Taneja, to do the honors. Congratulations, Shahzeb and Amjad. Use of technology for last mile delivery of effective medicine and the first aid during disasters is an extremely critical function. I hope you can take this to the next level. Congratulations. Moving ahead, ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, iSenses could not be here for some reasons. So I would request Menak, my colleague, to accept award on their behalf. I would like to call upon Mr. Dwivedi once again. Can I also request Mr. Alok Sharma, CEO Shaikocan, to be on the stage for receiving an award for recognition of the work they have done during the pandemic for developing a biological attenuator that deactivates the virus in closed and open environment both, and neutralizes it. So can we have Menak? I'd request you to present the award to Mr. Sharma. So, ladies and gentlemen, now we have come to the top 3. So, all top 3 are winners for us. In fact, all top 10 are winners for us. So, I'm announcing the names in random order. There is no order to it. So, starting with DG Swasth Foundation. Unfortunately, Dr. Pallabi is here, but she is down with COVID. She is isolated in the hotel itself. So, she would not be able to collect the award. I would request Menak, if you can come up on the stage and collect the award on her behalf. Dr. Pallabi, DG Swasth Foundation. Can I call upon Dinah for presenting the award? A huge round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, please. So can we have Ishita on stage, please, for the next award? Can I call upon Dr. Valerie? Surely. Can we have the award, please? So Power with Mukki, which is a gamified two-way chat-based. Congratulations, Ishita. So I think this is an excellent initiative that you are undertaking. Domestic violence, sexual abuse are some of ingrained social problems within India that continue to haunt us even in the 21st century, and you are working towards a noble cause. Thank you, Ishita. Ladies and gentlemen, last but not the least, I would request Hans Goodman to be on the stage to present the final award. It's Rajendra Latkat for Sanjeevani Disaster Management Package. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Menak, may I request you to take this forward now? Yeah, so can we have the corporate film from IUCL and Bayer as well? Thank you. Thank you. Once again, a huge round of applause for all our winners.
The fate of a sustainable tomorrow is pronounced by the footprints we leave today. As the world stands on the precipice of a changed reality, the shape of the future is left in our hands. We, the creators, have been empowered to write a narrative that speaks of choices that forge a better tomorrow and opportunities that are best utilized in the furtherance of mankind. While pressing concerns such as climate change, pollution and global warming condition our everyday, it is time to unite in every decision, every call and every step to foster a planet that lives well and breathes free. We, as an organization with environmental consciousness weaved deep in our DNA and customer convenience at our core, have been committed towards orchestrating a cleaner and greener future. Through our many innovative products and solutions, we are enabling the country's future readiness while securing availability and affordability of cleaner fuels to its people. With each of our efforts rooted in transforming the future, we are shaping the country's energy transition and aligning it with the aspirations of 1 billion Indians. We are dedicated to the successful realization of the country's sustainability goals as laid by the Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Geared up to fulfilling the national mandate for hydrogen mission, we are facilitating India's shift to a hydrogen-based economy. We continue to expand our portfolio to include the entire spectrum of environment-friendly fuel alternatives. We are focusing on building an infrastructure that not only promotes but sustains the changeover. Nurturing a resolve to forever keep exploring and expanding newer paths, we are aligned to the urgent need to scale up the green agenda swiftly and address the concerns of today for a better tomorrow. Together, energized by an expansive goal, with every choice we make, we are building a future that thrives. We at Indian Oil are crafting a green future.
What's common between yesterday, today, and tomorrow? A single thread that binds biryani, bisi bele bhat, chakra pongal, and pulao. Something common between self-care and healthy aging. A name that's common between Sandeep, who gave up the comfort of the city for the farmland, and Mansi, who left her village for better opportunities in the city. Bayer. It's a name that has touched the life of Kalyani, Mukesh, Namrata, Rahil, Sakshi, Sanya, and millions of others like them. For over 125 years, we have been there for a happy harvest and a sumptuous feast. We have been there for innovative health treatments and self-care solutions for a healthier future. For over 125 years, we have been there for informed choices among the farmers on the fields and families across India. As we look ahead, we will continue to relentlessly work towards our vision. A goal that can only be made possible with the support of the people who make us Bayer. Yesterday, today, and tomorrow, we will always be there for you. Because it's not about what we do, it's about how we make your life better. Bayer. Science for a better life.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And now proceeding to the way forward and recommendations, may I now request Mr. P.K. Taneja, IAS retired, Director General, Gujarat Institute of Disaster Management, former Additional Chief Secretary, Government of Gujarat, to be on stage, please. Before handing over the mic to Mr. P.K. Taneja, I would like to have
I'll load the presentation.
I would like to have a few words about Mr. P.K. Taneja. He has joined the Indian Administrative Services IAS in 1984. In his career spanning over more than 35 years, he served at various senior positions with Government of India, Government of Gujarat, including the position of Chairman and Managing Director of several government and of Gujarat companies. Besides being Director General, Gujarat Institute of Disaster Management, he is also the Director for SARC Disaster Management Center and President GSFC University. Prior to this, he worked with Government of Gujarat as Additional Chief Secretary, Industries and Mines Department, Home Department, Forest and Environment Department, and also Principal Secretary and Commissioner to Health and Family Welfare Department. Mr. Taneja also headed several Government of Gujarat industries, companies as Chairman and Managing Director. So over to you, Mr. Taneja, for your way forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Manik. Am I audible? Good afternoon, everyone. Of course, I'm the last speaker, so I have to be careful. So far, there has been no person from the government side in this particular event. I represent the government except, of course, Mr. Dwivedi is in a public sector undertaking. So I was wondering as to what should I be talking about. There cannot be any doubt about innovation and technology as such. It's absolutely necessary, its role is immense, and we need to continue with that. However, it has two words, innovation and technology. So there can be innovations without technology also, and there can be innovations with technology. My understanding is that 30% of the world GDP is dominated by technology, whereas 70% of the GDP is where the technology is a minor partner. So I would like to emphasize that let us not be swept away by artificial intelligence, machine language, big data analytics and forget about 70%, which is very important. And that is where I always say that is the nature-based solutions should be given the highest priority. This is the opening remark I would like to make. COVID-19 pandemic and impact of climate change has made it clear that intensive and extensive risks are growing at unprecedented rate. Therefore, decision-making is extremely complex due to increasing unstable and volatile climate events and systemic risks. Now, one of the most important document, of course, for the disaster risk reduction is SFDRR. I come from the government, and let me tell you, this is a wonderful document. It's only 37 pages, and it's so clear. But let me tell you that largely people don't read it. And particularly in the government, they don't read it. I would like to go to one of the slides. Can you help me, Manik? Where is that slide which I have? This is a human behavior. Where is that? I have given you 7 slides, am I right?
Yes.
No, there is a graph. Mm-hmm. Where is that graph? It's missing.
I think it's missing.
Oh, it's missing. It's called Dunning and Kruger graph. I don't know how many of you know this graph. It would be very interesting if I can show it here. Can you just show it by browsing it? This gives as to what is the confidence level and the general knowledge or knowledge about the subject on the horizontal, and vertical is the confidence. When you do not know anything, your confidence level is very high. Means you feel that you know everything, because you don't know the subject as such. And gradually when you start learning the subject, your confidence level goes down. I would rate that most of the people in the government, they are in this quadrangle. They feel that they know everything, and in the process they need not know anything, and that is where it becomes difficult. And it is more relevant for the disaster risk management in true sense. I come from the government, so I can speak about the government. I was at a fairly high position in government of Gujarat as additional chief secretary to the government of Gujarat. I did not know anything when I joined Gujarat Institute of Disaster Management, I can admit it. And if I talk to my colleagues, they say, hey, you don't know anything. I mean, you need not do anything because we know everything. That is where the real dilemma is. And when you start knowing the subject, then only you realize that there is much more to it. So it's a huge challenge, particularly for the disaster risk community. And in the process, I would like, the way forward is to continue hammering it. Second is that I have put a slide on snakes and ladders game. Is it there? Now, government working is like a snake and ladder game. There are snakes and there are ladders. I've been in this snakes and ladders game. I sent you 7 slides. Okay. Okay, everyone knows. I think every one of you know what is snakes and ladders game. This aptly fits for government organizations. Some are snakes, some are ladders. So it becomes a challenge to find out as to who is the ladder and who is the snake. And if you can do that, then in that case you will succeed in getting a thing done. I'll only put that way. This is a hard reality. Let us call a spade. I think yesterday also some questions were raised. Now the third thing is that I'm in the sector of capacity building in true sense. I had no idea as to what the disaster risk management is. 5 years ago, I was lucky to be holding the responsibility as a director, SARC Disaster Management Center. When I started attending some of the international events like GPDRR, I found that there is a huge gap between what we are doing at the GIDM level and what is happening in these big international events. There is no connect between the two. And it is still true. UN and its bodies, organizations, they talk about international and national. There is no talk about subnational or the district or the field level or the grassroots level. An institution like mine is into that, and I see a huge difficulty in doing that. The language used here, the concept talked about here, they are nowhere at the field. And that's why we are not able to get the desired outcomes. Of course, my position is a little very unique. I'm at the subnational level as DG of GIDM, and at the regional level as the director of the SARC Disaster Management Center. I'm not there at the national level, so it becomes even more difficult for me as to how to translate the national perspective into the field level. But still, since I have been part of the field for 35 long years in my career, I can understand as to what can happen. Innovations and technology, if they are focused on localization and community level, I'm sure that these can do wonders. And my congratulations to the awardees here. I've been trying to do something on innovations and technology in my GIDM. Of course, I have an immense faith in technology because by qualification, I'm an engineer, though converted into a civil servant. But my interest in technology continues. We started using technology in capacity building before COVID-19. And can you just project it there? It's not coming there. Yeah, this, 1 minute. Yes. We were given national award called Subhash Chandra Bose Aapda Prabandhan Puraskar for our work in the year 21. Now, this was a culmination of many things being done prior to that. We started using technology way back in 2017-18. We had a concept of SETCOM being used for education purposes, for capacity building purposes, virtual classroom, smart classroom, and other things. And that's why when people stopped working on COVID-19, we were running our show. And that perhaps was appreciated by the Government of India, and we were awarded National Award. We also did one thing, that we developed certain apps. It is there in my so we developed an application called Advanced COVID-19 Syndromic Surveillance System. Idea was basically that why can't we have the potential infected people to be traced faster so that they can be taken care of. Let me give my own experience. Despite being Additional Chief Secretary in Government of Gujarat, despite being DG GIDM, it was very, very difficult to steer my concept into the government working. Every time I'll get an answer that Government of India has done many things, like you are aware, Arogya Setu, CoWIN, Umang, and in the process, Then I utilized my own influence with my subordinates, who were the district disaster management authorities called collectors and district magistrate in India. I could introduce this concept only in 6 districts out of 33 districts. Now, if a person like me who is in some position of power, who has been part of the administration for 40 years, 35 years, if I am not able to get things done, I can understand the plight of others. That is what is important. But that doesn't mean that we should stop it. We should continue it. Persistence is a must. We should keep pursuing this. I also understand that basics are missing of disaster risk management. You ask anyone, and if you put a test paper to any bureaucrat or anyone like district authorities, and you ask some basic questions on disaster risk management, I would say 90% or 95% of them will fail. Is it a hard fact or not? That's why we introduced a 5-hour course, self-paced, using technology, using a platform of Government of India run by National E-Governance Division of Government of India, Department of Electronics. And more than 15,000 people have been benefited by using that 5-hour course. Then in order to reach the ground level, we also converted into Gujarati vernacular and used the education department to see that these basics of disaster risk management go to all the schools. And almost 150,000 teachers were benefited with this particular kind of thing. I do believe that we need to use the technology. That is what I am trying to say. We could not have reached 150,000 people unless we use the technology. So the role of innovation and technology is absolutely a must. So I even would like to, that this should be disseminated and circulated to everyone. Now the issue is primarily, I do believe as to what is the way ahead. What is the way ahead is that never ever lose your confidence, keep continuing. I have been continuing, let me tell you, after being additional chief secretary, many times I get frustrated as to things are not happening, despite being so important, that in my own state, but keep doing it. You will succeed. I would like to make an offer to all the innovators. If they want to be associated with my institute, they are welcome. I'm seeing that. Thank you. Fortunately, I am also in one of the universities as the president of the university called GSFC University. I have about 1,350 students with me, about 100 academicians. Those who are wanting to be associated with us, they are welcome. We do go beyond Gujarat borders. Of course, as a SARC, I'm responsible for the 8 member states. So I'm sure that this good process will continue. FICCI, EDPC, and all other organizers, they deserve accolades. Indeed, I'm grateful for being given an opportunity to talk about it. Lastly, I'll make a request that please do visit our portal. Both GIDM and SARC Disaster Management Center, we have followed one principle that whatever we do belongs to public. There is nothing private about it. We are run by the public money, so everything is, and we share everything. There is nothing which is confidential for us, because disaster risk management is an area where if you share more, you become richer. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Taneja, for his way forward and recommendations. Now, we'll proceed for the vote of thanks. Now, for the vote of thanks, the vote of thanks is given by Mr. Rituraj Mehta, who is the co-chairman of FICCI Committee on Disaster Management, and who is also the corporate head, Safety and Business Excellence, Adani Power Limited, Adani Transmission Limited, Adani Electricity Mumbai Limited. So before asking, or requesting, his talk, which is obviously a video address because he couldn't make it, I'll just give a brief about Mr. Mehta. He is the co-chairman of FICCI Committee on Disaster Management. He's a corporate professional in the field of safety and business excellence with 26 years of experience and exposure in major industrial business sectors like automobiles, chemicals, textiles, cement, energy, and financial services. He has worked with renowned business brands in India like Aditya Birla Chemicals, Grasim, Ultratech Cement, and Adani Power. A graduate in chemical engineering from NIT Raipur, presently he is leading the drive for safety culture transformation in thermal power, transmission, road, water, cement, and AEML business. So the video message of Mr. Mehta, please.
Good afternoon all. On behalf of Presidium of Federation of Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industry and FICCI Committee on Disaster Management, I would like to place my sincere thanks to United Nations Office for Disaster Risk Reduction, UNDRR, National Disaster Management Authority, Government of India, NDMA, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Asian Disaster Preparedness Center, ADPC, for supporting us and ensuring that this program, which is dialogue on importance of innovation in disaster risk reduction, could be successful. My heartiest congratulations to all participants on the successful completion of the session. I would also like to place my vote of thanks to Indian Oil Corporation Limited and Bayer Group for their support in terms of sponsoring this particular session. I would also like to place my vote of thanks to all dignitaries, international delegates, and other participants for this particular session and ensuring that this session is active, productive, and resulting into some fruitful outcomes which can be turned into some actionable items. Friends, we already talked multiple things on disaster and its management. We all know that what kind of things are required when it comes to disaster management. I would like to put your focus upon the industrial perspective. Coming from the industrial background, we understand that disaster management is all about caring your assets. And when you talk about asset, we also consider people as our asset. How to take care of our asset in case of disaster occurs? So what is required to be done at our industry? Since I am from Adani Group, I can tell you that as a group, we are very aggressive in creating our approach in order to see that how disaster risk reduction takes place with multiple things. Our preparedness, our detection system, our post-disaster activities, all structured process should be in place. And we do have, whether it is from the energy sector, wherein we are generating power, whether it is port business, wherein we are taking care of logistics, whether it is airports, whether it is any other industry wherein infrastructure is involved. We in our group believe that if we can take care of our asset, we can take care of our country as well. We believe in growth with goodness. We believe in building the nation. And we also believe in building the globe. So it is very important for all of us to understand that in order to ensure that minimum impact is there post disaster, with the help of early detection, taking appropriate actions, and also immediate help to the impactful person or asset can also always be helpful and can always ensure that we are having a good system available with us. Next thing which is very important in this case is, we all understand that most of the disaster we can't prevent to happen. The help of technology or intervention of technology in this particular field is a very critical thing. With the help of technology, we can really help reduce the risk and see that people or any asset of our industry is reduced to the minimum level. And here comes in the innovation. So with various kind of innovation, we can really see that how these things are helping not only the government, society at large, but also industrial sector, to see that how we can take care of our assets in case of any disaster related scenario. So imagining the disaster scenario, early detection, or maybe having actionable points on time, all these things would require intervention from technology. And as the technology comes, innovation will always be in the picture. So I'm sure with this session, we will be able to identify some of the really practical innovations which can take place in our industrial approach towards disaster risk reduction. And we will be thankful to those people who are introducing this innovation, who are part of this innovation. And here, it's really a wonderful platform to recognize the efforts of those people who are putting or submitting their innovation in this session. So my heartiest congratulations to all and sincere thanks to all the supports. Thank you so much. Good evening.
Thank you so much. That brings us to the closure of this wonderful initiative. And now I will request every one of you to join us for the lunch at the restaurant. And with that, we from all behalf of ADPC, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, FICCI, and UNDRIS India, we want to thank all of you for your kind presence and time. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the restaurant is near the pool side. For your information, restaurant is near the pool side.